Can stress spike your blood sugar, even if you're not eating sugar or carbohydrates at all? The answer is yes. Today I'm going to uncover how stress secretly raises your blood sugar and causes glucose problems for you and exactly how you can stop it. I'm Dr. Beverly Yates, licensed doctor of naturopathic medicine, and I've helped thousands of people to reverse type 2 diabetes and prediabetes. Stress is one of the overlooked factors that often shocks people. In fact, so many of the people that I've worked with had no idea this phenomenon can make all the difference for good blood sugar control. Let's break it down. All right, now let's have a review of the science of stress and blood sugar. So, to understand this, cortisol is a hormone that your body naturally releases when you're stressed. There's good stress called eustress and not so good stress called distress, right? And in the case of distress in particular, cortisol can overreact, overproduce, chronically stressed or seriously, severely stressed. Your excess cortisol can cause damage. It can start to damage your blood vessels. It can do other things. One of the things that I don't think people really get taught is what it does to your blood sugar. So, when you're stressed, your body naturally releases more cortisol, the stress hormone. Why? Because when you're stressed, your body is preparing for fight or flight. It's putting you into superhero mode, right? If you need to flee someone to get away from danger, or if you need to stay and fight, whatever it might be, you need to be able to have a certain series of responses throughout your body to get your blood vessels and the flow of your blood to your muscles. So you could use the powerful large muscles of your body either to run away or to stay and fight. This is something that we've inherited from our ancestors. Now, the reality is around cortisol in today's busy, stressed out world that I often call cortisol nation, the kinds of stress people have right now typically are the stresses where you're not running away from anyone and you're not fighting anything. It's an internal situation. It might be mental stress, it might be physical pressure. It might be a combination. It could be emotional stresses, all of which can combine and conspire to raise the level of cortisol that's in your blood. And whenever your body's putting out more cortisol, it's going to be putting out more glucose, more blood sugar to meet that potential demand for more muscular activity. However, if you're in a life situation where you're not going to be burning that off because you're literally running for your life or you're staying and fighting for your life, this is a problem. And if this happens to you multiple times throughout the day, or if this goes on for the course of months and years, decades, oh boy, wow, what cumulative damage this can occur. And this can happen independent of what you're eating. So even if you're eating really well, lots of protein, lots of fiber, slow burning, complex, resistant carbohydrates, right? Those are all good things. You can still have this happen to you. And this is one of the things that is, I think, really frustrating for the people I've worked with when they've come to me. Often they've never been taught the connection here between stress and blood sugar control. Stress is no one's friend. Stress absolutely will, in my opinion, grab us by our genetic collar and slam us up against our genetic vulnerabilities. But there's more to this than just genes. The environment you're in, how you live your life, where you go to work, whether or not it's noisy where you live, if there's a lot of other difficulties that might be stressful in terms of your perception, all of these can come together to raise that blood sugar, even though you're not eating a ton of carbs. And this is one of the hidden aspects that's really underappreciated and often explains why people who otherwise have good lifestyle habits still have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes. That's how it really works. The other thing to know with stress, particularly repeated chronic stress or a severe over the top kind of stress, you can have a big spike in your glucose, a big spike in your blood sugar. This spike of cortisol that comes out first, and then glucose rises to meet the demand that the spike of cortisol is anticipating, that prompts your liver, another organ in your abdomen, the liver, to release stored glucose. So even if your blood sugar level started out in a healthy place, if you're severely stressed, your body puts out that cortisol. Now it's gotten a signal to increase the amount of glucose in the bloodstream. It's going to release it from storage. So it's going to overwhelm. So even if you started out here at a nice healthy level for your blood sugar, with the release of cortisol, that went up. Now so does glucose, okay? So does blood sugar, and it can overshoot. And then you can have more insulin come out trying to deal with all of that extra glucose. And if there's demand like this on a repeated basis, this is one of the ways you can develop insulin resistance. Ay, 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 so unfair, but that's how it works, right? We're not designed really to be constantly under stress. We're designed to have a stressful moment, recover. Have a stressful moment, recover. Have a stressful moment, recover. And for many of us, that's not how our day-to-day lives are lived. It's important that you understand that. These real-world impacts are happening all over the planet. There's lots and lots of places and situations where people are stressed. And these glucose spikes that happen, these blood sugar spikes, even without eating lots of sugary foods or without starchy foods or without carbs, because of this process, people sometimes wind up with type 2 diabetes. They may wind up with problems with their weight, with their moods, with their sleep, and their overall sense of well being. Okay, so now here's some symptoms, other things that you might experience or otherwise may not know about. So here's some surprising symptoms you might ignore, otherwise miss, or not realize it's part of the situation. One is sudden, unexplained blood sugar fluctuations. Sometimes our stress responses are delayed. All of us, we're individuals as humans, and so we don't respond the same to everything. So some people will respond in a moment to a stress. Right there, their body responds. Other people process slowly, delayed, and so that response might show up later. So in the moment, things might seem okay, and then later on, they're like, whoa, look at that blood sugar spike, having forgotten about the stressful moment they had earlier in the day. Sometimes it shows up like that in time delay. Other things you might experience or people around you might experience and give you feedback about is perhaps if your behavior is that of being hangry or irritable. Hangry being a combination of the two words hungry and angry, right? Hangry. Hangry is unpleasant. It's hard on you. It's hard on all of your organs, including your pancreas and your liver. It's hard on your brain, your moods for irritability, for being angry. Just difficult to be around. So if you notice that people flee, they're telling you something. Or they may directly tell you, you're just unpleasant to be around and they just avoid you. Then you wind up with more isolation, which is a downward spiral, right? That has its own consequences and can lead to more, you guessed it, stress. So people sometimes can avoid being around you because your behavior might be very difficult for them to tolerate. They don't want to be around when you lash out, right? So if you're having these sudden blood sugar fluctuations, just know this can drag your mood, your mental clarity, and other things with it. And your relationships can suffer, as well as your own sense of well-being. All of it can really start to swirl the toilet bowl, so to speak. Now, other things to know around this is that sleep disturbances absolutely can all by themselves as well cause type 2 diabetes, or if you already have type 2 diabetes, it can make it worse. A particular chronic problem known as sleep apnea, whether it's central sleep apnea or obstructive sleep apnea, it's a huge issue on its own, and especially in the context of diabetes and for glycemic regulation. That's right, good blood sugar control. I will cover this in more detail in a separate video, but right now I just want to bring it up so that you know it's related, right? So we're going to look at that through the lens of the Yates Protocol, which has 5 steps to it to fix blood sugar and reverse type 2 diabetes and prediabetes through natural lifestyle-centered means. Another thing to note you might be experiencing in terms of symptoms is that when you're really stressed, you might notice that your hunger goes up. You might be experiencing increased hunger and potentially cravings from stress-triggered glucose swings, right? So as your blood sugar gets on the roller coaster, woo, up and down it goes, or a sharp trip up and boom, a crash down, right? Those are very real things and they can be very much related to your experience of stress. The hormonal signaling from two key hormones for ghrelin and leptin can get out of whack when someone either is chronically stressed or has a severe traumatic stressful event. And then boom, the next thing that you're craving the very things that intellectually in your mind you know are no good for you, and yet here it is, you want them. It's not about willpower. That is such a myth and misperception. It's not fair, and so I want to make sure we clear this up. Willpower can apply to some things. That's not what's happening. This is a physiological response to stress. So what can happen is when ghrelin and leptin get out of balance is that you are rendered in a difficult spot. It can be very difficult for you to tell if you're truly hungry, and maybe you can't tell if you've had enough and you're full, or at the very least, you can't tell when you are no longer hungry and be able to simply stop eating because you can't tell that you're full. You can't even tell that you're no longer hungry. Therefore, that's going to precede being able to tell that you're no longer hungry and want to stop eating. And in this moment, it's unfair that stress, just like poor sleep, can cause all of this hormonal chaos. That's right, it can trigger hormonal chaos for how your body responds to glucose, your insulin balance, your fasting insulin levels, your ghrelin, your leptin, all the things, right? It's really unfair that stress, just like poor sleep, in fact, can trigger all of these hormonal disruptions and metabolic havoc. But there you have it. I cover that more in depth in other videos. All right, so other things you might experience aside from irritability and mood related things could be headaches. Sometimes people get really big headaches when their blood sugar is on that blood sugar roller coaster. They can also experience fatigue, feeling tired, overwhelmed, exhausted, and they're like, what is going on? All of this can be due to a reaction to stress because it leaves you feeling depleted. And then, if you're tracking your blood sugar, and I sure hope you're testing your blood sugar readings, you can see that your glucose readings are elevated. All right, so please tell me in the comments, does any of this sound familiar? It would be great to hear from you in the comments below. If you find this video helpful, please like the video, share it with others, turn your notifications on, and subscribe to this channel. This way you can help me grow the channel and reach others with information. Thank you so much. All right, now let me share with you some real life case studies from the people that I've worked with. Here's an example of a patient whose stress management dramatically improved their blood sugar quite directly. For my patient named Kay, her workplace was stressful and chaotic. It was a place of not good things happening. She never knew what to expect except to expect the unexpected. That was the deal there. And in working with her on her health goal to reverse type 2 diabetes, it was clear that her workplace was a root cause of her blood sugar dysregulation. Kay let her manager and coworkers know that their last-minute demands on her time meant she fell behind on the things she was actually responsible for at work. She asked them to each come up with solutions to address the requests that were truly beyond her actual job role and scope of responsibilities. Now, once they saw and understood what their part was in frankly overloading her work schedule, things improved and she was once again able to take a real lunch break and walk around the workplace and still get her responsibilities done on schedule without having to work an extra 20 hours a week to make it all happen. This made for a profound change and a much healthier work environment for Kay and put her in a better place relative to her health. So, to sum it up, once she put better boundaries in place at work, her stress levels lowered and her blood sugar improved by over 40%, going from waking up with fasting morning blood sugar numbers in the 170s to the 200s to now waking up with fasting morning blood sugar numbers in the 100 to 120s range, which was a big improvement over the course of 2 months. In her case, the blood sugar response in a healthy direction was quick. This was so affirming, and she understood that advocating for herself really made the difference and it allowed her to get so much closer to her health goals. Now, let's share another story here. This is a transformative personal outcome. And as I worked with my patient Bill on his goal to reverse type 2 diabetes, it became clear that his irregular sleep was an obstacle to health and healing. Bill made a commitment to change his sleep habits. He went from having really irregular sleep habits, like all over the clock, going to sleep anywhere from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. That's a 3 hour swing, friends. And waking up anywhere from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. A 4 hour swing on the other direction, even 11 a.m. Whew, that's hard on the body. That's hard on your brain. That's hard on everything. Your entire hormonal system is thrown out of whack because of, the irregular sleep schedule. And he shifted and now consistently went to going to sleep by 11 p.m. and waking up around 7 a.m. He gave himself the opportunity to enjoy 8 hours of sleep each night. Once he got regular about his commitment to go to bed and his time to wake up, that 8 hour time frame for him was amazing and it was a healing opportunity. He literally could reset his blood sugar while he was sleeping because it's a fasted state. You're not eating, you're not drinking. That's your beautiful healing opportunity each and every night to have your blood sugar reset to the healthy range, or at least make it possible. And in his case, sleeping well made all the difference. And committing to regular sleep time was how that magic happened for him. And this included weekdays and weekends. He had gotten into a habit of thinking he could catch up on sleep over the weekend, and it doesn't work like that. Once that sleep is opportunity is missed, it's missed. So if you have shorted yourself 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep, you're not going to make up for it. You can't catch up on sleep. That is a myth, okay? Now for Bill, this is a huge shift. So his blood sugar numbers rewarded his improved sleep habits, with his A1C dropping from an 8.7 to 6.2 over the course of 6 months. So for him, this was a half-year healing journey, and it made a tremendous difference because he took charge of his sleep habits. What a difference that makes, what a gift this can be to having healthy levels of blood sugar. Can you relate? Does any of this sound familiar? It would be great to hear from you in the comments below so everyone learns together. If you find this video helpful, please give it a like, share it, turn your notifications on, and subscribe to this channel. This way you can help me grow the channel and reach others with this information. Thank you so much. All right, now let's take a look at hidden sources of daily stress. I want to be sure that everyone watching this video can just think of, huh, what are the things in my life that are stressful or that might be stressful that I hadn't even considered, right? Sometimes we get so used to being put into the stress frying pan that we don't even notice how hot it's gotten in the pan, okay? So some common but surprising stress sources. As I just shared, a lack of sleep or irregular sleep schedules. Your body can perceive that as a stress, and there goes your blood sugar control with it. Another one is the emotional stress from caregiving or in some relationships, particularly unfulfilling relationships. It's been my observation with the people I've worked with who have blood sugar problems, who have polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS for women, who have insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome, who have high blood pressure, cholesterol problems, who are at risk for dementia, things like that, that often they are the rock of their community or their family. They are the go-to person. Maybe they're the matriarch or the patriarch. Maybe they're the one in the community who volunteers for everything that other people count on, right? They are that rock. Listen, under enough pressure, any rock can crack. If you stress a rock, it could crack, right? So we're not meant to be robots that way. We're not machines. And here's the deal about caregiving, which can be so personal, along with relationships in general. People don't always feel comfortable telling others about the load that they are carrying. And you know what, friends, let's be honest. Frankly, sometimes people don't always have someone else to tell who's willing to listen respectfully and just listen. Not necessarily fix it, but just listen. That can be hard. Social isolation adds to the feelings of stress and overwhelm. It's really important. So if that's an issue, I encourage you to build relationships with new people and to expand your circle of support. It's so important to not be isolated, particularly if you're dealing with blood sugar related issues. Stress can show up in a lot of ways, and having no one to share with makes a difference. So if you can make that better for yourself, please do. Take some chances and reach out so that you have other people to talk to. Another source of this can be the chronic work pressures, like we talked about in the other example, and feeling overwhelmed. When people are simply asking too much of you at work. I've had any number of people that I've worked with who have diabetes as one of their health concerns share these sometimes ridiculously extreme work circumstances where one person has left that workplace, another person in their department left, and now they're doing the jobs of two, three, sometimes four people, not for additional pay either. And they have that much more work and more time spent at work, and their own health just starts to really spiral. Not a good situation. So if you can avoid that, please do. Another source of stress, and this one I think is particularly insidious. It can be invisible, right? This is under the category of overstimulation, where there's just too many inputs all the time. Could be constant news, could be social media, other kinds of notifications, let's say on a smartphone, some other device, people calling you, texting you, whatever. You know, it could just be too much. Others reaching out all the time, leaning too heavily on you, perhaps, and depleting your ability to do your own self-care. Again, it's been my observation with the people I've been so honored and blessed to work with. Often they're just stretched too thin. There's not enough of them to go around in the day. And as a result, their own self-care suffers. And I encourage you to find ways in however you live your life, whatever your circumstances may be, to take regular time for self-care. This is really important. Another thing that can happen here that's a risk, and I want you to think about, hey, does this resonate for me? Does this resonate for you? Is not having a plan for what to eat and when to eat. I've noticed a lot of people with type 2 diabetes often don't plan their meals, and lunch is usually the wild card meal, more so maybe dinner. And so as a result, it's a real scramble to figure out what to eat, where to get it, and so it becomes easy to just go get something that's fast food, that's highly processed and ultra refined, and therefore likely to be a real problem for your blood sugar, your cholesterol numbers, your blood pressure, perhaps your weight, maybe your moods, etc. It's really a challenge, right? So a lack of meal planning is a setup for failure in achieving and sustaining healthy blood sugar levels, even moods, clarity in your mental function, healthy weight levels, and can also cause problems with budgeting for meals. Sometimes people wind up spending more than they intend over the course of a month because of their constantly eating out. Sometimes, depending on where you live, eating out could be cheaper than buying the healthy foods and preparing them. What I've noticed is if people put their budget towards buying healthy foods and preparing them as much as they can, and it does not need to be the most expensive foods. You can do this inexpensively. I cover that in other videos. Please check those out. If you're on a small budget, you can still do this. You just have to be more intentional and really think about it. Maybe go to the farmer's market just as it's ending and you can get the best deals then and maybe not pay full price for the food. That's one thought. Clipping coupons, looking for discounts, holidays, there's all kinds of things. Being a member of a co-op for a health food store, there's a lot of different ways to make healthy, nutritious food available. And so if you're feeling really stressed and you feel that pull and you're craving all the stuff that you know is worse for you, I invite you to make sure you are doing that meal planning and you've got your healthy meals ready to go. So even though you feel that tug, perhaps, from the poor sleep, from the too much stress, you have a great plan for your nutrition, and that's what you eat. It's on hand. It's the easiest, simplest thing to do. I invite you to try that out. So please, always, as we go through this, remember, self-care is not selfish. This healing journey is about progress, not perfection. All right, and then now let's talk about number 5, which is proven strategies to lower stress and blood sugar. These are some of my favorite things. Let's go through it. So I'm going to outline these practical tips and you can apply them immediately. Take it with you, take notes, rewatch this, share it with others you think could benefit, because this is the kind of thing where once you take charge of it and it becomes part of your habits, then maybe you'll stop feeling quite so stressed and you won't feel quite as perhaps trapped in that cycle. Hopefully you'll feel inspired and empowered. That's my goal with these videos. All right. So number 1, short daily mindfulness, in this case, breathing exercise. This is real simple. We're going to do it together just so you get the sense of it. This is a 4-7-8 breathing pattern I'm going to demonstrate. I'm going to breathe in for the count of 4. I'm going to hold it for the count of 7. I'm going to exhale and breathe out for the count of 8. All right, here we go. I'm going to invite you to put your hand on your belly. And if you're in a public place and that might feel awkward, you don't have to put your hand on your belly. But notice where your belly button is. Just feel that going in and out. Just get a sense of that location, okay? We're going to breathe in for the count of 4, hold for 7, breathe out for 8. We're going to do this together right now. Here we go. Breathing in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. Now we're going to do it again, and I'm going to invite you to notice your breath and to have your breath deliberately go down to the bottom of your lungs to where the diaphragm, that amazing muscle, is just below your lungs and just above your internal organs, your intestines and all, okay? So again, noticing that belly button, put your hand right over it. Let's do this one more time together. We're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Here we go. Breathing in, hold, out. Ah. I know every time I do it, I feel more relaxed. Even if I was already relaxed, I'm even more relaxed. I hope you find that helpful. One of the things I love about that 4-7-8 breathing pattern is you can do it anywhere. You could be standing in line at the DMV, for your car registration or something, or you could be at the library or the checkout line for supermarket, and maybe it's a busy time and you're feeling annoyed for whatever reason. It's a great way to reset your mood, your blood sugar, all the things. Like just invite your soul to really get into that 4-7-8. And that's one of many. There's plenty of other breathing patterns that are a possibility. All right. Another idea here is to establish a relaxing bedtime routine to optimize your sleep. This will help your stress levels. When you have little kids you're raising, if you're a parent or if you've ever parented anyone, or if you are a beloved auntie or uncle who cares for young kids, a grandparent, whatever your caregiving role could be, having a relaxing, established bedtime routine when caring for young children is like key, right? Nobody wants chaos with little kids. At the end of the day, it's not good. Talk about stressful. Oh boy, don't want that, right? But give that gift to yourself. And if you didn't have a relaxing, peaceful childhood, I'm so sorry. You can parent your adult self now and create that relaxing bedtime routine. If you did have a gentle, kind childhood, great. Lean into that. Think about what was it that you had for bedtime routine. Was it calm? Great. Invite that into your adult life and do the adult versions of it. Have a solid hour to an hour and a half transition before you put your head on your pillow. You're going to make it so much more likely that you're calm, that you're rested, restored, and you're going into your sleep world in a good place. I invite you to be thoughtful about what you do right before bed. If you're watching the news, if you're watching violent movies, if you're watching anything that's really chaotic, stressful, lots of wild cards, is this really what you want to take into your sleep world when your blood sugar is resetting rather, your blood pressure is resetting, your soul is resetting, your mind, your memories are being restored and, firmed up. Think about what you want to invite there. And will this help you with stress or will it harm you? Be very intentional about it. It's worth putting some energy here. Another thing to consider for stress relief is to do gentle physical activities, stretching, taking a walk, going outside and just enjoying the sunshine, listening to the birds sing, maybe hearing the noises, the rhythms of your neighborhood. Maybe where you are, there's plenty of grasshoppers and they're singing at night, whatever it might be. Maybe you go out and you watch fireflies, depending on where you live in the world. There's all sorts of things in the natural world we can enjoy and observe. Perhaps yoga, meditation, prayer. There's so many ways you can do that, and you can do it with gentle movement. So if you're doing meditation and that could work for you, great. If you're praying, that could also work for you as a gentle movement practice combined together. Other ideas would include having healthy boundaries. That's right, putting your own limits on screen time. I've noticed a lot of smartphones have apps along with things embedded in the phone to help you notice when you're using your phone maybe more than you might intend. Although, let's be honest, in today's world, so many things run through these smartphones, it's kind of crazy. It's hard to not use it at all unless you completely unplug. But do what you can to pay attention to what kinds of things you're noticing when you're on your phone, your laptop, a desktop, or a tablet, okay? And then managing commitments. I invite you to remember something I've shared in other videos, which is that the word no is a complete sentence. Let's practice saying it together right now. No, no, no. And here's the beauty of it. You don't need to explain it. Just let the word no sit and let the other people reconfigure themselves around the fact that you're not going to be available 24/7, especially if what they're doing is just harming you. Okay? Make yourself that priority. And then on this idea, we'll end here with the idea of journaling or expressing your writing, whether you're actually handwriting it out, maybe you're using an app to capture your thoughts, maybe you're doing both, maybe you're doing needlepoint, maybe you're painting. I've seen people be very creative about how they express themselves in terms of writing or documenting, journaling, finding a way to capture what's going on for them. All of this can be helpful to manage the emotional side of stress and be a useful, helpful outlet. All right, so let's recap these solutions with an eye towards what's actionable. What can you do for yourself right now? Okay. One is to manage stress through mindfulness practices, breathing exercises, things like that. Do it with intention. Another is to prioritize consistent quality sleep. It's so important. Sleep is the amazing opportunity each and every night to hit the reset button for your blood sugar. And so if you've got blood sugar issues, please work on those stress levels and keep an eye on your sleep. They are related. Another is to engage in gentle, regular physical activities. Whatever you would enjoy, that's the one that's going to work. Another one is to limit stressors through healthy boundaries and reduce screen time. Be thoughtful about what you're watching, paying attention to, interacting with, and remember, the word no is a complete sentence. And then finally, journaling, writing things down, doing creative things like painting, perhaps quilting, needlepoint, things like that to reduce emotional stress and anxiety. All of these outlets can be good. All right, friends. So please tell me in the comments, which of these stress solutions will you try first? It would be great to hear from you in the comments below. If you find this video helpful, please give this video a like, share it, turn your notifications on, and subscribe to this channel. This way you can help me grow the channel and reach others with this information. Thank you so much. Remember, this healing journey is always about progress, not perfection. Please take great care of yourself. Self-care is not selfish. Check out the description for my channel where you can find links to join one of our programs, join our community via the email list, and other ways to work on your health goals.